I'm Nathan. I'm CEO of Social Game Universe, makers of Lightning. It's really fun for me to be a part of this TV conversation. I actually cut my teeth in the early 90s at City TV in the newsroom and then helping start the interactive division and started the interactive division at Miramax. So for us, this is actually full circle and really, really excited to be a part of it again. What I've been focused on for the last few years has been games. So I want to talk a little bit today about how we think games have something to teach us. And specifically, games are going through some pretty big shifts right now as well, and I think there's stuff to be learned from what's happening in the games world. So engagement, of course, everybody knows TV is engaging with the world of engagement, but what is engagement and how does it make TV better is what I want to answer today. This is a slide that I've stored. I see that some of the text is hidden, so I may be reading off of this paper stuff because the formatting didn't come through, but this is actually a slide that I stole from a friend of mine, Sebastian Detterding, who does a couple of really great talks about gamification. You should take a look at this. This is called Owned, spelled pond. And he kind of raised this question, which is it badges, stickers, voting? Is that what engagement is? And then he used this slide to say, you know, I think this is the rise of badge measles. So at some point, sticking badges on something, stickers on something, points on something does not make an engaging experience. So we look a little bit towards games and the real fully immersive experiences they create to teach us a bit about engagement. This is a great book by Raf Koster, who is a real innovator and fun theorist, game theorist in the game space. I recommend you read it if you want to have interesting ideas about engagement. A lot of my opinion have been formed around, a lot of my opinions have been formed around engagement, thinking about what's fun. So even reading the news in the morning can be fun for me. And so this is a great book that kind of opens your mind to the kinds of things that can be defined as engaging and fun. Fun's something we've been working on for a long, long time. Obviously, games go way back, and games are part of our learning. In fact, play is part of our learning. And this stuff's innate to us, and it's stuff we want to do. In the game space, and I'll talk a little more about what's going on in the game space, there's a lot of innovations happening. Mainly, design and development of games is getting faster and more iterative. Angry Birds was Rovio's 50-second game in their first hit, which is quite an interesting stat when you think about it. You know, I threw this slide in this afternoon because we were talking about the different layers in the broadcast world. Paul's slide that had sort of the fans, the audience, these different layers, and this image came to mind, which is the maestro or the organizer of some of these experiences being the broadcaster, but having almost like the symphony of your audience playing. Yeah, some of these slides aren't formatted, but you get the idea. And then the more passive audience of viewers, but it's that entire sort of holistic ecosystem of pieces of the puzzle that's intriguing. So games and game thinking are increasingly guest stars of this idea of engagement. We all know TV is social now, TV is apps. What was coming up today a little bit, a number of you worked on the Over the Rainbow app. We were actually really proud to be a big part of what was powering some of the game side of that, including the challenges on Over the Rainbow. And I know that something like 1,200,000 challenges were completed to earn the votes to actually vote for your Dorothy, which, as David was just saying, pretty interesting because it's actually the first sort of tip of the iceberg of bringing a game mechanic into a TV show. Votes are a currency. Very, very interesting stuff. So suddenly TV has a lot in common with social games, in my opinion. And there's no accident that I've been involved in social games after coming out of the TV space. I find this very interesting. So some of my notes aren't up there. So and it's not that sudden. Of course, interactivity in television is something lots of people have worked on for many years. And Speaker's Corner is a great example. We did lots of really interesting interactive voting at Much Music, Too Much for Much. That was real-time voting back in 93, 92. So some of this is over 20 years old. Pretty fascinating. So what has that got to do with making TV better? So to answer that, I want to look a little bit about how we're trying to make games better right now, because I think we can draw some parallels. This is a little quote from Peter Moore at EA, who's saying we have to focus on games as a service. The entire games business has shifted from games or products that you ship to things that you run as a service. And of course, freemium is another terminology that's really big in the games world, where most of the experience is free and happens with your friends, but you're paying for add-ons and extras. So what we've been focusing on is the tool set. And I think there's a real opportunity to build a tool set that the creative people can use. So not just APIs and programming languages, but WYSIWYG tools, tools that make it wizard easy to set things up, sort of a WordPress mentality, if you will, to put all of this stuff about engagement that we're developing in games that seem to apply to television back in the hands of the TV producers. So this is actually one of the things that's part of our Lightning platform. There's actually a number of companies in this space. I'm showing ours for obvious reasons, but there's quite an interesting growth in this space where people are looking at bringing these tools back to producers' hands. Another really big thing about the games that we're running and this platform that we support them with is that unlike the old business of television where you put a show out there and you wait for the Nielsen ratings and then you decide, am I going to make another show or change the show or make more of the same, we're getting data about our users, what they're doing, what they're buying, where they're going, when they're going there, minute by minute. We're seeing exactly what they're clicking on, we're seeing where they're clicking on it from, and who they are. So that real-time data is super powerful. And more important than having that data, which a lot of people do. You see a lot of people talking about big data. There's lots of things like Mixpanel where you can read your data. Contingent does data and analytics. What's really exciting to me, though, is when you can take that data and instantly make changes. So a big part of what we're focused on is the tool set to manage your product as a service, meaning can I have people who are non-programmers changing the prices or changing the logic? And the simplest example of changing the logic is changing a challenge. Now, unfortunately, it wasn't ready for Over the Rainbow, but we've launched this January the cloud version of our software, which now makes it easy for any producer to go in and change those challenges on the fly. So you don't have to be a coder, and you can be changing the experience of your product. And we're going to go further and further down that path. And of course, it's a service with customers. So one of the biggest values you're building in the game world isn't just the game. It's the fact that you now have, in the case of Dirty Dancing, we have 1,200,000 people that we have an ongoing relationship with. So managing that relationship, messaging to them, posting to them, and so on. This is a quote. I'm quoting myself here. This was 1998 when we launched Bitcast, which was the first tool for uploading, editing video through the browser. This is, I guess I put this here partly because I'm looking a little at history when we do all of this stuff. And for me, my history has been, how can we enable the creatives to do this themselves? We all know the Mac revolutionized desktop publishing. WordPress did a fundamental shift to that as well. It made it possible to manage your publishing as a service. The NewTek Video Toaster and Final Cut Pro and Avid, Media 100 and others revolutionized making the video, but it's YouTube, unfortunately not Bitcast, that changed the way we manage that as a service. Pretty profound change. So we believe the same thing's happening right now in social application management and creation, whether it's social TV apps or just a business that you're running on an app. And that's what we're really excited to try and help. So how does this help? I think I've said this a couple times, but we believe it helps because we put the tools in the hands of the creatives. So how do you make better TV? Well, I think we let the TV creatives make that decision and figure that out by being able to experiment, iterate, and create on their own. Put the tools back in the hands of the creatives. They will make the TV better. So anyway, that's really the end of the presentation. I have a couple more if we want to do questions that I can show some examples of the platform doing engaging products, but otherwise I can chat with you after.